Howdy folks, welcome to the Scannell Agenda. Today's show is entitled How to Defend Our Schools, AMP. Now this I'm calling a silver bullet. How can we defend our schools? And I'm saying I've got it. I've got this one, you know, like everything else. Fisheries, energy systems. I think I nailed this one here. But first let's talk about the current thinking with teachers having guns. Well, everyone probably is thinking in the back of their head, you know, there are going to be problems with this solution, and it may be a better solution than a no-gun zone. But the bad thing is teachers' guns can be ripped off in about 2 seconds, or anyone's gun. You know, people's guns get stolen and you club someone over the head and grab their gun. So this could be, statistically speaking, both good and bad, this idea about arming teachers, which I am for. Actually, I'm for it even with this silver bullet that I'm talking about, which is called AMP, which stands for, as I've mentioned, Automated Military Presence. Basically, if you can picture an ATM in your school, only the ATM isn't giving out money, it's giving out security tools, such as a gun, but not just a gun, to the right person with the right ID. And it really couldn't be done in a coercive manner. That's the ticket for the AMP. No one could trigger it without, well, it would be almost impossible. So it would be good if teacher can get a gun in 10 seconds, and I'm saying this is what we can do here. Now it's bad if the teacher can be confused and shoot another teacher with a gun, so of course, you know. Also, there are some kids in high school that are juniors and seniors in high school that would be better trained and prepared than some of the teachers. Obviously, that's true. Some of the boys that are hunters and girls that are hunters would be better able to assist the teacher if the alarms went off and the automated military presence was activated. Now there are all kinds of details that go with this. I've been working on this for actually a number of years, and I came up with it because I was frustrated on seeing on TV all these little mom and pop convenience stores getting robbed, and sometimes a regular string of robberies. And such things as in Hyannis, I used to go to this Bank America, and they had a guard out there. Probably they still do have an armed guard posted there, which doesn't seem to me to be really the solution. And also I'm from the clubhouse world, so there's very little, if any, difference between a school and a clubhouse, logistically. You're trying to protect your innocents, whether they're children or disabled people. And of course, some of these innocents aren't so innocent, as we found out by the 17 murdered down in Florida. But I did also want to say, too, that I believe that the police have been taken, the police includes the FBI, really taking it on the chin. And the quiet ones have been the psych people. So I would say, you know, I'd say 80% of the blame on this 17 murders down in Florida goes towards the, I'll call it the DMHs, Department of Mental Health's. I don't know if it's the same as it is here in Massachusetts, but Florida Department of Mental Health. That's where I would put about 75 or 80% of the blame for this particular crime here, or more, higher, 95%. Because the police have to depend on these people to weed out dangerous people. And it's really their job, not the police's job. I know it's the police's job too, but if the lead dog is not the psych people, and the psych people are looking at the police like, do your job, that doesn't work for me, because that doesn't make any sense. It's the staff and also, let's say, clubhouse members who belong to these clubhouses who are going to be your first line of defense, your members especially. They're going to be saying, watch this, person, because these red flags are going up. And it seems to be that there always are these red flags that are going up, and they're going up, and they're going up, and then the shoe drops, and we say, hey, we start pointing the finger. So I just want to say, I believe the psych industry deserves, I'll go as far as saying 90%. And I know that I was so angry with the FBI, and we probably all were. You were told about this guy. You had 20 complaints in the sheriff's office, and everyone was complaining. Okay, where was the psych? Where are the psych people in all this? There's some problems here, and also we have dangerousness hearings. We have all these apparatus that are on the books to protect our society, and everyone's looking around to being politically correct, I guess, and not using the systems we have in place. So I just think we've got to cut the cops a little bit of slack here, because they can't know all about all the psych cases and then have the confidence to do the right thing. They got to be a partnership between the psych people and the cops, basically. And when I say cops, FBI, state police, all the departments of mental health, all the agencies especially too that run these little programs that, like I'm in. And of course this does tarnish mental illness. Poor people with mental illness have to suffer with all this stuff, and that's, So there's another component here for gun control, I think, that needs to be talked about. And I think, number one, to the police chiefs, they have to have an opinion on file about who should have a gun and who shouldn't have a file. And there should be the schools contributing and the psych people contributing, and maybe some people from community and various backgrounds contributing. People with substance abuse connections, people with the veterans connections. But it wouldn't be a public list. What I'm saying that there has to be a high school no-gun opinion put out there by the high school. And there'd be a list of so many people, let's say, that would make that list. And it wouldn't even necessarily be available to the parents. I know that may seem a bit backwards, and this is not how we do things, but you can't have a secret list and have it public. And you want a list. If it's going to be public, you basically can't do that. So we need to protect ourselves, and the practicality of the matter dictates that we have to have a secret list for some of these squirrely kids that are coming out of their teenage years into, coming out of high school, etc. They're ticking time bombs, you might say, and giving every indication, as you see on TV. They're giving every indication, and I've seen a lot of this stuff too. So I don't think we need to be setting numbers on this kind of a list, but I do think we need it. So this is basic groundwork for psych groundwork and police groundwork. You've got to get the job done here. You can't have excuses and pointing the finger. And this would be a very big on discretion, this kind of thing, with this list. And So teachers and principals could go on the record as weighing in. And if someone goes hairy-carry or runs amok, then this teacher would say, just a minute, I went on record. Why weren't you doing your job? 10 of us went on record saying, you got to have some real control over some of these people, and this guy was one of them. Boy, you guys dropped the ball. So teachers are good, and they're qualified to judge, I think, and we need to use that. That's kind of a first line of defense as the kids come up, public, private schools. I hate to say the private list is the only way to do it, but I think it is. And that working in conjunction with your psych people and your police, you can't be ruining someone's life right out of the starting gate. We just can't do that. But yet we have to protect ourselves. So I think that's a keeper, that idea. Now the automated military presence is something I designed for the little convenience store, and then I found so many other uses, such as any public place, such as a library, or any public place, airport, you name it, bank, could be a restaurant, a mall, basically anywhere where we all want protection. And if we all can trust these AMP systems, which I know we can trust them if they're done right. So I hope you don't think I'm a crackpot for this idea. It's called automated military presence. But I think it's better than no. You can't have a gun. No one can have a gun. And yes, we're going to have armed teachers. Well, something right in the middle of that, what would that be? Guns available in a pinch, authorized by these, let's say, high-tech machines that can look in your iris and know who you are, your voice, print, and then they could dispense for you if it's safe to do so, and cameras backing you up and knowing that you're not being intimidated. All these safeguards. All these ancillary systems are intense when you start stacking them up that contribute to this AMP system. There are a lot of subsystems that go with this. My file's probably, half an inch thick just with this, not to mention the military stuff, which I'm not qualified to design for. But it's just common sense, basically. So, how to defend the schools? The answer, the silver bullet, automated military presence. But underlying all this, as I've said, your social services, your psych people, your police, interface, your town nurse-based system, if I had my way. Maybe your janitor has a gun, and he's an ex-military Navy SEAL. Who was that governor? The governor, he's one of my favorite guys. I can't think of his name. But I saw on Facebook, I saw him talking about, let you hire your ex-military guy who's stable and who knows how to handle a firearm, et cetera, et cetera. Your janitor is protecting the building. That's, how basic does that get? That's smart. It's like when I'm looking for a rock that'll kill two birds with one stone. This is my security system right here. It says, be happy. That's all I get. Anyway, we do have to have security systems, but I don't think we need to have excess amounts of police. But we need to have the police and fire drill along with the students and teachers, and there's going to have to be drills for these automated military presence systems, which you may not even know where they are or what you're looking at when you're looking at them. It may be very clandestine. And you may have a highly protected school that isn't listed anywhere as a highly protected school. So, as Donald Trump would say, you don't want to tell your enemy what you're doing. And this is the same philosophy. You don't want your enemy knowing what you're doing. You don't want the guy robbing the convenience store or the liquor store to know, oh, this store has the AMP and this store doesn't, so I'm going to go to this store that doesn't have it. I mean, this is just so rudimentary, I guess you might say. So, the backup safety for the clubhouses and the schools and the libraries, etc., of course, is your FBI. But we're putting them up in the front line here. And there's something that rubs me wrong about that. Because we're essentially trying to identify dangerous people. And if that doesn't fall squarely to the psych people, and there are psych people in the schools, you know, I don't know who it would fall to. I don't think the police are being treated fairly, but I'm telling you, boy, was I so angry when you laid it right out there for the FBI and they dropped the ball. As well, the sheriff's department down there. We're all angry, but my anger gets sort of transformed into solutions. That's what I do as a hobby with my clipboard. So we have the no-gun opinion. That would be the first place to start immediately. Congressional act to have nationwide police chief would own the list, and I have about 4 different people. One of them would be the town nurse. One of them would be the town chairman of the town nurse. So the town nurse board with the psych people, local psych people, and of course your chief and your deputy, and depending on the size of the department, they would be aware. And your high school principal would be aware, but not all the teachers. This would be a secret list. Teachers could talk, but that's talk, and I hope they don't abuse that. So local security for schools with the AMP. And we need to talk also about localizing the authority for school security as an option, because we have seen what decentralized authority has done. All right, so a company installs, using fire department people perhaps, let's say a robot floor cleaner could be one form of an AMP that would be portable. It would clean the floors and it would come out of hiding. And there it would be with cameras and firearms attached, and also attached to the computer. And when I say the computer, I mean communications. So that would be the ultimate, because it would be not putting any personnel at risk. And I have here an idea: mark and armor secret colors. So there would be a security system chooses the colors at the time of the alarm, and that would help to foil an imposter. And, you know, so you couldn't get dressed up as security. All the security people authorized would be wearing special dictated colors so that you didn't have confusion, because someone could conceivably dress in police garb, etc., and have ulterior evil intentions. So that is a situation you want to protect against with an automated military presence system. So guns outside in hidden location for an attack would be another thing. In the building, outside the building. So you'd basically be capable of having a military fortress. So I was thinking also, if we go with some other ideas that I've got for more visiting workers from different countries, you never know who's going to weasel their way in and what they're going to do. So, you know, with all the terrorism out there. So you've got different color codes for different days listed here in this particular little dispenser for security equipment. So it wouldn't be known who is going to be going to these AMP. It would be similar to a cash machine that you would go to, let's say. You couldn't really bust into it with any degree of, you couldn't do that too quickly, and if you did, it'd be very much an alarm type thing would go off, and there may be another AMP backing up that AMP, you know, redundantly. So it's actually not a redundant, it's a first response system. It's a very first response system by the teachers that doesn't, of course, lessen the need for the police to show up and do their job, right? Of course not. And with the ambulances. This is all very sad and tragic. And then you need loudspeakers to go with all these systems. Bad guy in room 213. Cameras are everywhere. You know, you would be directed to do what you were going to do based on where the threat was and not a general evacuation. Kind of reminds me of the Pilgrim evacuation of the nuclear plant that I have designed. It wouldn't be a general evacuation. It would depend on which way the wind is blowing the thorium from the Pilgrim meltdown plant. Let's say if it were blowing, you know, northwest, it was shifting, and you would be getting people fast, quick, in a hurry out of the zone where the wind was coming from the Pilgrim. Well, it's the same thing here. You got to really target your threat, and you got to really target your response. What is that? Tactics and strategy? I don't know. So then you'd have less panic. You'd have more people that know, in the know, what happens, and that creates a certain kind of happiness, and your numbers for your school shootings go down, down, down. Also, we have to have a discussion somehow nationally about the publicity, because the publicity can drive the copycats. So there's a lot to this. And of course, we have free speech, but as they say, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You know, that whole adage. So your AMP box, let's say, hides well in the ceiling. It could be in the open and marked. It could be falsely in the open and marked, you know, like a dummy security, a dummy security camera, which looks like 5 minutes. Thank you, Jamie. Which looks like a security camera, but, you know, it costs $2. You know, that kind of thing. So you could have dummies. You could have the real system hidden, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't take too much creativity to think like the bad guy and think like what would stop the bad guy. So you want these systems in the open and marked, and you also want them hidden. Oh, that's right too. Safe rooms is big with the equipment, you know, to design in some safe room technology systems and what's in there for the institution, whether it be a school, etc. Tamper resistant, alarmed, all this stuff. So I think this is the silver bullet, these automated military presence systems. You have a teacher that was, let's say, in the Army or the Marines, or he was a cop or she was a cop, or just a hunter or a woman who's just on the ball. You know, can you say to her, you know, would you mind doing some training here? You know, the chances you're going to be called upon, especially with these systems in place. The chances you're going to be called upon without these systems is 1 in a million. But with these systems, it'd be 1 in 10 million, let's say, or 1 in 200 million. Who knows? With these systems in place, it's like, you ever watch TV and the people that go up to a house and take a package? There they are on camera, you know? Hello? You know, you got to turn these criminals into paranoids, basically. That's what you got to do. So on the other end of the AMP would be your police department, your military, your state police, your expert in the school, in a control room, safe room. And you never know, if war ever hit this country, oh my God, this would be so handy to have, right? If some kind of a war broke out and we had threats in the country, wouldn't this be handy? So this kind of goes with an ID system, this automated military presence, AMP, which is the silver bullet answer. You'd have a retina scan, you'd have a digit with your finger, and you'd have an identification, okay, bang, there you go. There's a shooter in room 213, and, here you go, Mr. Whoever you are, teacher. You're trained. There's your weapon. You've got it. You're on. Go for it. If somebody's shooting up down the hallway, you got a weapon now, and you're on your way to the shooter with a gun. You're armed, and I think that's the way to go. There's so many different angles with this automated military presence that I feel as though is a cut above a system of simply arming your people in the schools. So it's all a matter of quality control, working it out. So I think the sooner this automated military presence becomes, first of all, accepted as a concept, as a legitimate concept, and then you don't do 1,000 of them at once. You start doing them, and you start training on them, and you see what works and what doesn't work. You drill with them. So good luck to all of us, I guess. And thank you for watching the Scannell Agenda.